Okay. Hello, Nicole. Thank you so much for coming to talk with me about every cell. What I would like you to do first is just, introduce yourself, say something very quick about what we're here to talk about today.
Well, we're here to talk about a short psychological female-led horror film that I've written and will be directing. And well, I would love for you to say the little line that I snagged you with.
Well, we'll get there in a minute. We'll get there.
Mhm. Okay. So it's it's essentially about it's a one woman show, and it's if invasive thoughts were given a body, but on the horror spectrum.
You just have all of the lines here that's amazing. If invasive thoughts took over. Oh my goodness. That's frightening.
I mean, I
I
actually can't
love
think,
it
I'm
though.
hard pressed to think of something quite more frightening than that. If for anyone who's experienced uh, things like invasive thoughts or sleep paralysis is another one. It's pretty scary. And
Yes.
I mean, no wonder people think of demons. And so of course I go in a demonic direction.
So while we're on the topic of Nicole, I'm actually gonna start at the bottom of my list. We're just gonna do some like rapid fire, what's your favorite type things. So don't
Yeah,
even think about it. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind, and then we'll circle back to talking about every cell. So
sure thing.
first question, what was the last horror movie that really, really scared you?
I don't. I probably actually had that deep-seated sense of fear only really as a child, and this is, I don't know, I was a very, very sensitive child and had especially like sound sensory stuff. So every time I heard like the X-Files theme song, I would scream through the door at my parents, like, turn the volume down. I can hear it. And they're like, please go to bed, whatever is on at like 7 o'clock at night. I don't even know how you know. All I remember is if it was even on in the other room, or like the Unsolved Mysteries, that one too. Where
That's
as a
the
kid, I
one.
I could not hear the music. I could not hear the low rumbling, steady voice of in this case in 1972. I'm like, no. So as far as actual like true terror, which is now probably considered quite tepid, we're gonna have to reach that far back. Um, as far as blissful uneasiness, I just watched The Substance. It has a lot of body horror in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very female centric and speaks toward kind of societal stuff that is pretty horrifying. And so that's very unseating, which I think is a little bit of a different emotion, but there are so many different ways that horror can kind of like, is it an under the skin feeling? Is it a cold
Right.
rush feeling? Is it, oh my gosh, my stomach is cold? Is it jump scares? I love a good jump scare, but I I don't I don't dare say really out loud that I love them, but it's hard to get me to do it because I don't want people to start volunteering
Yeah.
in the real world. But yeah, I'm usually more of a there was a Seinfeld episode about what kind of an audience member I am. I'm basically a Spock in the audience. I'll just be, that was funny. That was scary. You know?
I it's easy to jump scare me. I don't know why. It just
Yay!
is.
Yay!
It just is. I don't particularly like when people do it, but sometimes it happens and it's funny for everybody. At least there's that. I don't like it, but I will still laugh because it is funny. If you could pick out of these three things your favorite creepy creature, you have a doppelganger,
Oh,
a vampire, or a ghost.
ghost.
A ghost.
Hmm.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Um, I feel like so I have a bit of a very specific kind of range of OCD. And so I often will feel like the word that I have in my vocabulary doesn't quite describe the thing that I'm trying to explain. So I'm not sure because I'm not sure what the real definition of ghost is. I've experienced some very weird haunting things. Um, would you like a for instance that involves a puppy dog?
Yes.
So while putting together this project very, very recently, I have a small dog that is very attached to me and sleeps with me. And he yipped, jumped back in the bed, yipped again, jumped away from the bed, wanted to leave the room. And I was like, oh no, what's wrong? Maybe he had a flea on him. Maybe, any number of things. I go out, I check him, I check his paws, make sure that there's nothing like, no foxtails, which are very common around here, stuck in his paws. He's fine. I pick him up gently, set him on the floor in the doorway. He yips. And he's like, hello.
Ooh.
I go back into the bed and he hides behind me. And he is not a touchy feely. He likes to be near me, but not on me.
Yeah.
He was behind me and then staring off into the black and then jumped back against me. And I was like, all right, we're out. We're out.
Yeah,
We're leaving.
something's there. Something's
It
there, and
was,
I don't want to know what it is.
I mean, just the like, and he's in the past, he's started in the same spot and trapped. So I'm like, I mean, maybe he has nightmares. Maybe he sleepwalks. Maybe, maybe he saw a spider. He doesn't, he's not fond of bugs. But
It's creepy. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
so I'm like, my first promotional interview, I had spiders on me, like on the table, like web across the camera that I had to clear out when I sat down. And I've had flies landing on my monitor whenever I'm editing or like doing any of the social media posts. I'm like, what is this? Is very matchy, vibey.
Yes. So, next question. You are being hunted by a horror villain. It doesn't matter who.
Mm.
Who are you going to call for help?
Like, am I allowed to call anyone for help or
Anyone.
only and someone that's actually in my phone book?
And we'll say anyone. Anyone.
I would call upon my ancestors.
Yeah, that's
Gotta
probably
get
best
gotta get
option.
Oma to help out here.
Yes. Are you German?
I do have some inheritance, yes.
Oh, cool. Me too. 'Cause you said Oma, so I'm like, oh, because my husband's mom is German and she is Oma. So I was just
Oh,
curious.
yeah. And auch habe ich in Deutschland gewohnt. So that was a long time ago, but I did live in Germany for a little bit and
Oh, okay.
experience it's very fun if you're from the West Coast to go to the East Coast of the United States because it's so much older. And then if you've experienced the East Coast, you must keep going east and end
Yes.
up in more ancient architecture and ancient customs. And even though it's a modern world, there's so much there.
Yes, yes, for sure. I've been to we're going so off topic, but it doesn't matter because we're having fun here. We're I have been to Germany twice just on day trips, but I want to say I've been to two of the oldest places that I've been to were in Japan and Turkey. And
Hmm.
it's wild to even think like, wow, people existed back then. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, and then I don't know, old places are very affecting, I find.
Yes.
Young places, I mean that there's no such thing as a young place, but I mean as far as a younger culture, younger architecture, it's has a very different sort of effect
Yes. Yes. I
on one's psyche and possibly one's ghostly experience.
yes. Okay, now we're gonna connect these two segments here. So, last rapid fire question. If you could describe every cell in one word, what
Mm.
would it be? You can only pick one.
Tricky.
What was that?
I said tricky, but I think that's more the
Ricky.
experience with it. Liminal.
Okay, liminal. I like that. I like that a lot.
We're
Liminal.
gonna look up our little pocket dictionaries.
Okay.
So liminal is the space between,
Yes.
which is where so much of creativity and fear and unknown resides, the in between. And as a middle child, I can tell you, the in between has some very particular flavors.
Yes. Yes, it does. Now, you mentioned the very famous now quote from Every Cell here. I'll read it. What if your demon doppelganger knew all of your hiding spots? When I read that on your Seed&Spark, I was immediately interested because I've never thought of something like that. So where did that idea come from?
I don't want to give anything away because it is a short film. It's almost like you talk about one part of it and then it's short enough that you can see it coming. But really, that is rooted in a confused sense of self. Many women in modern society experience that. Many people who are on the spectrum, um, autistic or neurodivergent otherwise, if they're neurospicy, as we like to say, have experienced this. Is this me? Is this self? Is this something else? And then I am also a functional health practitioner that focuses on nutrition in my day job. And learning about the microbiome and how fascinating that is and how much more that's being studied. There's really, as far as when talking about self, we should all probably be using the royal we,
Yes.
because we are not largely human self. We are largely other,
Hmm.
unknown other. And the creepy crawlies, it's all the things that we
Yes.
think of as creepy and crawly. It's viruses and bacteria and kind of unknowns. And um, that is the start of that. So when you are confronted with yourself in the mirror, which is very typical, look yourself in the mirror and go like, who am I looking at here? Is this who I want to be? Is this who I think I am? Does this even represent what's good? Am I seeing myself clearly? Am I just, am I seeing in a dysmorphic way? And that's where it came from. I have a very good friend who is it called Wonderland syndrome or is it called Alice syndrome? Where literally at any given time you could have this very dizzying view of yourself. You could look at your hands and feel like your hands are as big as your torso, or
Hmm.
it can be really alarming. And so that's a lot of it came from, again, true existing conditions or symptoms that and psychology that very easily go into the liminal, and you go, is this spirit? Is this demon? Is this otherworldly? Like, what is this?
So we're talking a lot about mental illness here. How would you say that Every Cell differs from movies that we already have out now that deal with mental illness? Just thinking of a few, there was uh, what was it? The Woman in the Yard that came out a few months ago. There's the Babadook. There's a lot of different
Yeah.
ones that deal with this. So how would you say that Every Cell is different? Other than that, it's a short film.
So I will use a reference. When I was in art classes, um, we would all be drawing, painting, creating an art piece of the same model, whether that was an animal, a person, a still life, a plant. And you could go around the room and we were all looking at the most possibly mundane thing. And not one piece was even verging on similar to another person's piece. It's amazing. There is again in the liminal, there's this kind of fingerprint, something so fulfilling and sacred and different, uh, about how little we can control versus what we can control. And even in a very controlled medium, in a controlled space with controlled lighting, and you just get that group of people in the same room, and it's a whole different story with a different taste, and there's going to be a different audience for it. So just that definition of art, as far as I'm concerned, already makes it different from everything else. It's also very, very intimate. It is pure indie, and we have a lot of people who identify as neurospicy in the core group,
Yes.
and without breaking any sort of confidence, it's like, yeah, we know what some mental hardships are. We might know what the inside of long stay hospital looks like. We've been through some stuff, and there's a lot of empathy there, and there's a lot of shared experience that makes this piece feel so connective. And I think it does imbue it with the power to continually connect. And we talk about networking and we talk about community, but there's kind of these little tendrils, of art that can just kind of reach out. And I don't know whether that spooks you, but you're gonna get touched by a tendril or by a web, and there's something very web-like about, a piece that really speaks to you in an uneasy way. And I think that this really potentiates that.
So speaking of art, do you have any kind of stylistic inspo that led you to make every cell in the way that you did? Because it's looking at the promo video, you got some really surreal imagery there.
Yeah. I do love my layers. I don't know whether this is a Shrekian onion or cake, sort of depending on my mood, because there is a bit of mania there. I love onions and I love cake, and I'm willing to try them together. The
Girl,
layers.
same.
I mean, I kind of think maybe you could caramelize onions and make a really interesting layered cake. So part of it is just my DP. So director of photography Avery Peck is he and I can almost kind of just like, beep, did you get that, with some of the stuff, which is a huge relief. It really cuts down on kind of translation time, communicating a vision. And he's a wonderful colorist, so he can really give the heaviness, the gravity, in what's necessary in post for the look. But actually, my inspiration for a lot of it is it's rooted in my childhood. I had night terrors, and I would sleepwalk. And I remember so clearly some of these scenes in my dreams, and they were low saturation. They were, almost like the coloring that happens when there's what is the word for when the moon goes in front of the sun?
An
Eclipse.
eclipse, yes.
So that eeriness of an eclipse where like I can see, but I'd rather not. Like
Yeah.
it's making me uneasy. It's not right. So there's a lot in that kind of subconscious. I don't even want to say landscape. There's got to be a better mysteryscape, liminoscape that is so founded in something that the logical mind can't touch, can't translate. There is no direct translation for some of these
Yeah.
experiences that are being processed. And I do love a bit of the new science and study of like genetic memory and heritage memory and trauma through generations, how it can be carried in a very physical way. And that the body and the genetics can keep this long-term score that maybe you're oblivious to as an individual. We're very individualistic in our culture to be like, I just did, I decided A, B, and C, and it's like
Up into a point you did,
up
but
and yeah, and then it's
there's
like
some
a lot
stuff
of
in there that just is.
yeah. So I love the idea, love hate, because it is a big challenge in real life when you're dealing with difficulties that you can't do anything about it. It's yours, whether or not you want it.
Right.
It's yours. You're responsible for it. You can take it or leave it or try to starve it or try to hide it or whatever it is, but it's yours.
Are there any scenes that you're willing to give us a little tease about? we don't want you to spoil anything, but
Right. Well, I mean, we already did post in some of the materials a visual that I think is so wonderful, and we're remaking that with a new lead actor. So this all the promotional material was with me as the lead, but I have a wonderful actor stepping on board. Her name is Leah Finity. I've worked with her before as an actor and actor capacity on the same set and a few times. And I had like a zero budget stuff during COVID,
yeah.
where I was directing. But this is just so different, managing a project of even this modest scale is not zero budget, over Zoom. But for that promotional footage, we found a vintage chest, and basically I just folded myself up and put myself inside after my incredible SFX makeup artist, Rain, did me up to look real dolled up, really
Yeah.
not alive. And I am a pretty flexible person. And so it really was like folding. And someone commented, okay, this just looks like pieces of a person that were thrown into the chest. Like I can hardly process what I'm looking at here. And that I was so happy with that. Happy. I mean, it's really unsettling. But depending on what kind of horror really gets under your skin, what kind of imagery or concepts get under your skin, someone could look at that and go like, yes, so what? And they're sure they could fit in the same size box.
Yeah.
Or they're really frightened of confinement, and that would not be a good scene for them to watch. But I was so happy with that. But
You
that was
should be. You should be. So that was not like CG
nothing
or anything.
special.
Oh
No, no,
my
no.
gosh. I
Nothing in post.
Jeez.
No.
I saw
Practical. We
that and I was
love
like,
practical.
that's crazy. That no, that's no way. That's like I don't know, a mannequin or something. Wow. You
So
guys really did a great job.
thank you.
Oh my
We're
God.
trying to do as much practical as we can. I don't know whether you saw the update release. I think I also sent it to you, but there's a link that shows just a little bit of sneak peek footage of what that liminal space, that tunnel between the demonic space and the physical realm for the protagonist is. And it was all pretty much, not all, I can't say. I mean, Avery did coloring in post and,
Yeah.
really kind of controlled the environment and really, made that kind of hugging that the darkness
Yes.
does, really accented that in post, but it's practical. And I'd love to talk about that more, but that could be a whole other thing.
Now, female-led films.
Yes.
I'm a big fan
I'm a fan.
of Scream Queens, Final Girls, all of that. How does Every Cell push those boundaries of what it means to be female-led? Because I'm sure everybody is familiar with, Scream Queens in slashers and it's only, recently that we've seen women who are not only, writing and directing these really, really great horror films, but the main character, the main woman herself is like super, super badass and just like not taking anything from
Mhm.
anybody. It's like flip-flopped from how it used to be. So how does Every Cell push those same boundaries?
The multiplicity, I would say, because this protagonist, truly the struggle is how to survive. And basically she has an inescapable predator, because this inescapable predator, because it's not clear whether how much of it is self and how much of it is other, how, and then if it's kind of like, if you squash the other, are you also squashing the self? And so she has a difficult journey with trying to choose, does she want to survive? Does she want to, can she thrive? Can she fight to thrive? If she fights, is that against herself because she's a gentle spirit? There's a lot of internal struggle. So in a lot of the mainstream pieces, I think that you can go like, oh, this is kind of an icon person. This is a person that fits this description.
Right.
And with Allie, the protagonist in Every Cell, it can't be that simple. It's kind of like if you're playing Mario Kart or bumper carring, and you're trying to get in a lane of choice, and you're just kind of shaking. You're getting the wobbles.
So along those same lines, a lot of final girls fit into kind of one category. You have survivors, victims, or you are the villain. Would you say that the protagonist is an an amalgamation of all three? Or do they lean toward, are we going to see any movement of that stereotype?
She'll be moving through what could be all of those titles in that one night tale. Yeah.
Were there any female made or female featured movies that helped, inspire every cell?
Yes, directly and indirectly, probably. I think that there's a certain amount of you internalize things, and you're not even sure where it came from, and it could have just been like I think even some of the most frightening things were just like cartoons from the 80s, or puppetry from the 80s, or even like anti-drug commercials. If you're like, it's abducting your life, it's taking over, that kind of stuff. Uh, but I love, the original Alien, Sigourney Weaver. I've been likened to her before, which is amazing. Yes, please. I don't mind that at all. Also, Numi Rapace, who
Yeah.
was also in the Alien franchise.
Yes.
But seriously, look up. There are some angles where we're like, we are doppelganger like.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Um, and then I know that for at least the cinematographer Midsommar, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, um, visually and that kind of unrest spirituality, more that cult kind of cult/occult feeling. Um, yeah, so those I think have inched their way in, kind of just
So
osmosis.
I think it's funny that you bring up Alien because I just read something, scrolling through Instagram an hour or two ago, and it was this little factoid that said that I can't remember if it's the writer or just somebody who made the film. It wasn't, I don't think it was Ridley Scott himself, but maybe it was. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But he was talking about how he wanted to make Alien as uncomfortable for men as the thousands of horror
Uh-huh.
movies are for women, in terms of you have someone or something rather, assaulting your face, you have an unnatural birth. And so it's just funny that you bring up you bring up Alien in this female led
I
movie.
mean, it has a special place in my heart. Not Gosh, I don't even like naming organs after thinking about the aliens, actually. It has no special place in my body. But yeah, just those original, and there's something so satisfying to look at too.
Yes.
Very rich imagery, very like quotable characters, and a, a lead that's not an ingenue, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is with the stories that I have written thus far, I do like to write from an older female's perspective. And of course, as I've gotten older, it has increased. Um, but there is something about, I think, a lot of people feel like they're still a certain age, even if they're like, 20, 30 plus years older than that age, there's an age that we are on the inside.
Yes.
And I'm perpetually naive and excitable. Like, I learn a new thing, and it's like I'm a whole different, whole new story arc for me. Um, which I think we could kindly refer to as, I think I've said this before, so I'm going to sound uh, like it, I can't think of another way of saying it, but like the nicest way of saying it is like Renaissance woman, where you can just kind of naively pick things up and experience the joy with it, and thus have like all of these new things on your color palette, you know.
Yeah. So in the horror space, how would you say uh, what are your thoughts on the inclusivity of women in horror? Has it changed? Is it getting better? How do you personally feel in this space?
There is so much in the genre, independent, bigger production, horror, comedy, all the way through just really, really violent or very, very psychological, or again, kind of the mystical. Like there's just so much. So it encompasses more than I can like really process. I would say because of how broad it is, there is a certain welcoming quality that is wonderful. Is it enough to counterbalance the lack of, or then the over everythingation, simplification, sexualization, whatever of female characters in like certain genres that are maybe very popular, subgenres, I should say, that hold a lot of subgenre popularity. If we're talking about balancing the scales, that they're still far from, but it can be a very kind and supportive and interesting and fun community still.
I like that. There, I feel so comfortable in horror, but I don't know if that's because I've been made to feel comfortable, like everyone's been really welcoming, or if that's just because I
Right.
love it so much that nothing could faze me.
Right. And
But
it could be
yeah,
a little from column A and a little from column B.
yeah.
So
But I mean, that's not to say that horror has its problems. I think it has certainly gotten better since the
yeah, and I mean, you
beginning.
know what? I should even say like better since when, because it's not like it's been a one
No.
even arc. There's all kinds of ways
Better
like
since you choose.
right. And at any given like little snapshot, you could see like a little down, a little up, a little over.
Yes.
But I will say that I mean some of just the most what you've experienced, just some of the most willing people to really just be excellent community members. Just really
Yes.
warm and excited.
Yes.
They're in that community.
Yes. Horror truly is a place for everyone. And even if you find yourself not fitting in one place, there's, as you said, a million subgenres that you can certainly fit into for sure.
And it's funny because you might not know, looking at the semantics, which subgenre and like circle is the most solid fit for you. And you can just happen upon it. I just love that you
Yes.
can happen upon something and go, oh, this is a thing. It's like,
Yes.
never knowing that a certain pastry existed. It's like, and then your life is completely changed. And then every time you look at a food that's not that perfect pastry, there you are. Like,
So speaking of the horror genre, you could have taken this story in any other genre. Why horror? Because obviously this kind of thing is scary to think about, but it could have just been a straight up drama. It could have been, I don't know, you could have done a comedy, dark comedy maybe. So
well,
why
actually,
horror?
so with this one, I went more in a surreal horror psychological direction. Partly because it does embody those like the dark rainbow of symptoms, which aren't well understood. And unless it was going to be, like you said, like straight up drama that almost felt like documentarian, I felt like it could so easily slip into that direction, um, and that it might be unbearable in that direction for people that are needing to look at the stars sideways, to really let it twinkle and sparkle. If that makes sense.
Yes.
It just ended up feeling like, also because it is the first in a series of 4 planned pieces that become bigger projects, bigger cast and crew, longer runtime, all the way up to a feature film, and they lead into each other. It's not that it's a series
Hmm.
like a 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's that there are overlapping bridges going from one into the next. So the next one in the planned series is more comedic, but how does it connect to this universe? The interconnectedness kind of just required that there's some amount of darkness and surreal quality that just, I think, better received and communicated and recorded in that horror space. Because otherwise, I think I'd have to just go in a completely experimental direction. Um, and people can, really fall off of that wagon. Not really feel like it's communicating with them in a way that they feel entertained by, or and this I just wanted it to be able to connect with as many people as needed it and wanted it.
So I like how you brought us right into the next set of questions. That was perfect. So you already you already briefly touched on what happens after every cell. Tell me more about doing this campaign, this crowdfunding campaign on Seed&Spark. Why did you choose it? Was there anything special about Seed&Spark that you liked? Because usually I talk to people who
There
do stuff on
is,
Indiegogo and Kickstarter, obviously. I've only
yeah.
spoken to one other person who did Seed&Spark. And funny enough, it was, kind of the same genre of horror movie, dealing with some inner turmoil.
Mm, mm. There's something down home feeling about Seed&Spark. You talk to a campaign specialist. They can't they don't approve you straight away. So you submit something, they look at it and they go, "We think maybe you should do X, Y, and Z. You absolutely have to do A, B, and C, but we'd really like you to do, no, no, no. These are our recommendations." And it is a female-led company as well. Um, they do have a higher success rate. There's a lot that you could go into with that. Um, it's not just they post stuff and they have a great, network of supporters like built in or anything like that. It's not like that. And I think that maybe there could be some confusion at first glance what that means, 80% success rate, and if I'm quoting the right math for today either. But part of that just being that it felt like I was talking to a person. There was a smaller community. It felt safer. I don't know, because is it safer? It's not as old. It's not it's not as like pre-stacked with a potential audience. And so I just decided I wanted to try this experience. Part of the journey here is to see which platforms and which contact points make the most sense for these kinds of projects. And I don't do as well with just not doing. I do well with the doing, and then conveniently forgetting and doing it again and going, I already did this.
So
um,
funny enough, I've never done any of kind of I've never been on your side of crowdfunding. I've never set up anything myself, but it's weird. I kind of get that like nice, comforting vibe from Seed&Spark. I don't know what it
yeah,
is, but it's like, oh, you guys seem nice.
part of it's the name. I mean, am I a sucker
Maybe.
for? Yeah, I mean, let's just let the audiences know I'm a sucker. If there's a beer and there's a dog on the bottle, there's a cat on it, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna try it. Moose drool, been there. You know, and it's like, yeah, there are just certain things that I go, well, seed, spark, they're just such positive words.
I
Kick is
like the
a positive
alliteration.
word. Kicking? Yeah, I know I'm a sucker for alliteration too. So maybe that played with me psychologically as well. I find it an easy to navigate platform, and you can insert and adjust and format fairly freely. And if you're like, hey, I can't get this picture to load in, you just use the chat, and a nice human person
I didn't
goes,
know
have you
that.
tried
That's
this?
nice.
So that felt really great. Um, I think that, and you didn't ask this, but I feel like it's worth it if anybody is looking at campaigning and they're going over their options. It's well worth it to look into it in advance. Just kind of plan things through and get some things prepped. Like if you're going to be using social media, get your templates, set up
Yeah.
for and map out your shares and scope out your people that you want to talk to, and um, that platform requires you to meet 80% of your goal, and you have the option of really breaking things out as much as you want. You could put in your wish list your entire budget all broken out,
Mhm.
itemized, or you could just be like, productions this amount, post productions this amount, we're just doing it in the one campaign. um I feel like there was something that I actually meant to say, and it's just gone now, so.
That's fine. Happens to me all the time. So I'm sure the main goal that everyone wants to see is that every cell gets fully funded and it gets made, and it continues on to do all the things. Um, but one of the things that people also look forward to are perks. So can you
Mm.
talk a little bit about some of the perks that you're offering?
So there's a perk that I've been keeping under my hat, literally. Uh, that for I'm planning I to make an announcement, which I guess is now, that
Well, I
that
don't know. This isn't coming out until the 30th, so I mean, you might you might have already announced it by that time. Who knows?
we'll see. Uh, so a hidden under my hat perk incentive, if you will, is that people who are pledging and the community that's following and are, invested either financially or, just energy wise, interest wise, that I am going to give the option of choosing my next cut in color, which could be a buzzed blonde or
Oh,
could be just a trim, because I'm rocking this kind of already long haired gothy look. Um, or we could just go, with blunt fringe and in pink. I don't know, but basically, I'm going to let everyone vote what kind of style they want, and then pledgers get to, well, basically not vote, but the people in the community can propose, and then the pledgers can vote, and the top tiers get, their votes count twice.
oh,
And
that's
so
fun.
it's very transformative and it's very trusting, and it's a social experiment, and it's frightening. I am an actor, and I think it probably matters how I look a little bit.
Yeah, it matters, a little
A little bit.
bit.
But as far as the standard incentives, there is a discrepancy here. It's interesting. So on the platforms like, probably, I think it was Indiegogo. It might have been Kickstarter, and it might be both of those platforms, that the horror community likes more physical incentives.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that going into this campaign. It's something that I learned later. I knew what I liked, which was physical incentives, but I was advised against it. That more digital perks and things like that. And I'm going to tell you, like, half the people don't want the perks at all. They they just want probably the ultimate perk, which is, oh, the movie's out.
Yes. Yes.
But my sister is a fabulous artist, and she, going back to the me in the chest, all folded up, she did this wonderful black and white drawing of it, and I was like, I want bookmarks with that all over it. So that is one of the incentive prizes, and that I do dark portraiture for one of the higher level contributors. I do have the doodles as well, but as far as like the full dark portraiture, I only have one to do
Oh.
thus far, and I would love to do more.
I too love physical perks. The digital ones are fine, but I do like physical ones as well. Um, and I really like seeing all these options of drawings and doodles, because it feels really like behind the scenes, even more so than like, oh, this was a screen used hammer or this was
Yeah,
whatever. I don't know, there's like a vibe to it that's like, oh, that's very interesting. I like that a lot.
there's life inside of it. There's if I'm sending out little packages of like
Yes.
living energy, you know. I'm mug obsessed. So what I really wanted for myself was to do mugs with wonderful little, almost like TB terror images.
Well, you can do those
Um,
for the wrap party. Give them to your crew. Have some mugs
right.
made. Yeah. So we don't want to, opposite manifest this, but do you have plans for if this is not as successful as you'd hoped?
Absolutely not.
No. Hey, that's cool. I mean,
Um,
you want to have a plan until you get there. You never know.
yeah,
Why
no, that's
why waste time thinking about something that may not happen when you can plan for something and manifest it, send it out into the world to accept and hopefully, make happen.
the core members have basically dedicated themselves to the project, regardless of what the campaign does. And there's always regrouping, and there's always more people to talk to. There's always more people to talk to that when I saw this and but I only saw it and I'd like to do this and I'd like to, there's any number of possibilities, and I am prepared for whether the follow through happens with this campaign or not. Um, but as far as again, it's just semantics. It's that a little OCD experience. I have a plan is something that's like it's highly measured, and for me, it's
Yes.
like I have a plan, you know, ambiguous shape plan that has components, but it's almost like an imposter syndrome where it's like, but I don't know all the pieces of it. So is it
Yeah.
really a plan? It has holes. Is it really a boat if it has holes?
It's
That's kind
still a
of the
boat. It's still
right.
a
And
boat.
it is. And I know that logically, but it's funny because when you're looking at your own mistakes or your own Swiss cheese, you go, that could be better, right? Like, does it even count? It's like, when do you throw away the sock? When it's like less than 80% sock and more than 20%
Right.
holes, or like, um, yeah. So I do have a wonderful, beautiful, passionate, dedicated, very tight little group. Um, and then it's basically the less money there is, the more time and energy things take because it's people wearing more hats
Yes.
and having to do more weekends and evenings with it, that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's
Well,
it's hard work.
yeah, I bet it is. I'm very happy to hear that it will happen some way, somehow, regardless of how the campaign turns out. I hope that, it's wildly successful. I really do.
Thank
But I'm
you.
glad that this idea won't just die. Because some do. Some are like, if we don't make it, it's never gonna happen. I get it. There's tons of reasons for that, but at the same time, it's like, no, but indie horror is that's the thing. That's what keeps the genre alive. That's what keeps film alive. So it needs to happen. Your idea needs to get out there.
I think it is really, really important for it to be understood that, and I'm practicing this in life. This is practice, right? That you can't really just wait for things to happen and have it be the mainstream's okay. We all know, but we run out of energy, money, time.
Yeah.
We all do. We don't have the bandwidth for everything. But independent storytelling is mwah, chef's kiss, absolutely where it's at. And if you give so many of these artists half a chance, not even half a chance, my goodness, they can manifest and grow a garden of just unreal proportions
Yes.
with the most modest of resources. And they shouldn't have to always be in a pinch, and they shouldn't have to always be in this incredibly modest state because it's not sustainable. You know, if we really want to feel that we're part of a community, and I'm not trying to guilt trip anyone here, because we all can only do what we can do.
Right.
But again, practicing, I go, if you stay home alone, hiding from the world, and then you feel lonely, it's like, maybe change some of your habits. For me, that's like
Right.
definitely experiences. Um, and gosh, there are like hundreds of things I wish I could invest in. And you can only choose one at a time most of the time. And right now, this is the thing. It's a time where I think so many people are feeling distressed and disconnected and unsure. And yes, any generation could go through their own version of that, and they could have had novels at their disposal, or horseback riding at their disposal, or who knows what. Maybe they had nothing at their disposal, and there's nothing, I think, more tragic than being disconnected and not being able to find a reconnect. But this is, dare I say, magic. That there
Yes.
is something about, I've done theater, and there is something for opening night curtain that is, it is a, I don't know that you could call it anything besides magic. Maybe there's some kind of like very powerful hormone psychology combo going on there, but I have been in productions that were not ready to open, truly not ready to open. And yet the curtain opens and without a hitch. And it's like, it has to open. It has to
Yes.
get to the gate, and the gate has to open. If the gate doesn't open, there's no race, there's no excitement, there's no connection, there's no gambling. So, like, get in the stadium and open up the gates, guys. Like, okay, so you can contact me through Instagram. It's just at actor Nicole Berry, like a strawberry, sweet and edible. And as far as the movie itself, there's Instagram, Blue Sky, and Facebook, and it can be found just with the handle Every Cell Movie, all one word. And for the Seed&Spark, you can just hop on Seed&Spark and search for Every Cell. It'll come right up. And if you don't want to do that, then you can go to any of the socials I just mentioned and find Every Cell and click on the Seed&Spark link. That should be fairly obvious across the board. The one thing about Seed&Spark that I'm noticing that people might not see is that it has tabs across the top. So there's the main page, and then you can like look into the cast and crew and see their bios and see their pictures and their past works, and you can click on the budget. And so there's like a lot of information, not just the landing page, if you want to look at it. If nothing else, just look at the footage in the pitch video, and then in that secret little tab that's like the update tab, there's another bit of material in there, and more will keep getting uploaded as we go to YouTube and the like. So Every Cell, the production is, it does have some notable qualities to it. It is an independent film. It's very community based. We're also using sustainable production practices. I don't know that we're going to get the certification for the first film. It's just a very small production, so we might not have the manpower to like do the certification process, but we're utilizing those parameters. It's a very inclusive crew. We have much neurospicy behind the scenes as well as on camera, and as far as with the story, and as well as LGBTQ plus representation. And it's female led, and so there's just I know that categorically there's so many underrepresented voices, but we're really mindfully trying to have a very wholesome meal with the cast and crew and with this whole project. So you can do good things and have strong ethics and still have it be loose and still have it be art and still have it be spontaneous with integrity. It's all about the dialectical and really holding the line.